Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down complex topics.
All right, today we are diving into a genus of bacteria that's been around for, well, millions of years. I'm talking about Clostridium. And these guys, they are literally everywhere, deep in the soil, in the water, and yep, even inside our own gut. They're like these ancient, silent survivors.
Now, for the most part, the members of this family are actually harmless. They're what we call saprophytes, which just means they live on decaying stuff and help recycle nutrients. But there's a notorious few, and these are the ones responsible for some really severe and frankly infamous diseases, things like tetanus, botulism, and gas gangrene. And what makes them so lethal? It all comes down to the incredibly powerful toxins they produce.
So today, we're going to open the case file on Clostridium. We're going to look at what makes them tick, their sneaky methods of attack, and we'll zero in on the 4 key troublemakers that have made this genus a subject of, well, both fear and some really intense scientific study.
All right, let's get into it. What are the core traits of this family? What exactly makes them such incredible survivors?
So a few key things define this entire family. First, they're gram-positive. All that means is that under a microscope, their thick cell wall grabs onto this specific purple stain. Second, they're anaerobic, which means they thrive in places with zero oxygen. And the big one, the real key to their survival, they form these incredibly tough endospores. Think of it like a survival bunker state. It lets them survive just about anything: heat, radiation, disinfectants, you name it. And they can stay like that for a long time.
You know, their name actually gives us a clue about this whole survival thing. The name Clostridium comes from the Greek word for little spindle. And that's because when the bacterium is forming that endospore, it often swells up, creating this really distinctive spindle, or kind of like a drumstick shape. And that shape, it's a key clue for scientists trying to figure out which species they're looking at. Okay, first up on our most wanted list, the agent behind botulism. It's a rare illness, but when it hits, it is incredibly severe and causes paralysis.
So, its weapon of choice? The botulinum neurotoxin. And let me be clear, this is one of the most potent poisons known to science. It's what's called an exotoxin, meaning the bacteria just releases it, and it has one target: the nerves that control our muscles. Its mechanism is just terrifyingly precise. It blocks the release of a chemical called acetylcholine, which basically cuts the communication wire between your nerves and your muscles. And the way it works is, well, it's chillingly efficient. See, the bacteria itself doesn't even have to invade our body. Instead, we just have to ingest the toxin that it's already made. From there, it gets into our bloodstream and makes a beeline straight for our nerve terminals. Once it's there, it just stops the nerve signals from getting to the muscles. The result is what's called a flaccid paralysis. Your muscles just can't contract.
Now, botulism isn't just one thing. It can show up in a few different ways, and it all depends on how that toxin gets into your body. You've got foodborne botulism, which is the classic case you hear about from, improperly canned foods. Then there's infant botulism, where the spores actually start growing in a baby's gut. And finally, you have wound botulism, which is exactly what it sounds like: spores getting into a deep cut or injury.
So how do you fight something like this? Well, treatment is all about neutralizing any toxin that's still floating around, using something called an antitoxin, and then just providing a lot of supportive care, like helping someone breathe. But really, prevention is everything. When it comes to food, that means using high-temperature pressure cooking. You have to do this to destroy those super tough spores, because just boiling it isn't going to cut it.
Okay, now here's where things get really interesting. Our next culprit uses a very similar strategy, a neurotoxin, but it achieves the complete opposite effect. So remember, C. botulinum causes that flaccid paralysis by stopping muscles from contracting, while our next pathogen stops muscles from relaxing, and that leads to a violent, spastic kind of paralysis.
So let's meet the bacterium behind that spastic paralysis. We're talking about Clostridium tetani, the cause of tetanus, and those signature, just uncontrollable muscle spasms.
And you can spot this one pretty easily because of its unique shape. See, the endospore forms right at the very tip of the cell, which makes it look spherical and terminal. This is what gives Clostridium tetani that classic drumstick look when you see it under a microscope.
Its neurotoxin is called tetanospasmin, and it works completely differently than the botulism toxin. Once it's in your body, it actually travels up your nerves all the way to the central nervous system. And once it's there, it messes with the nerve cells that are supposed to tell your muscles to relax. So by blocking those stop signals, it leaves the go signal completely unopposed. And the result? Constant, totally unregulated muscle contraction.
And that leads to spastic paralysis, which causes the classic and truly agonizing symptoms of tetanus. We're talking about things like trismus, which is lockjaw, rhesus sardonicus, which is this horrifying rigid smile caused by facial spasms, and oppositonos, where the person's entire body arches backward in a really powerful, painful convulsion.
All right, our next case is a whole different beast. This one is a fast-acting tissue destroyer. It's responsible for one of the most feared infections on the battlefield, gas gangrene.
So unlike the neurotoxin specialist we just talked about, Clostridium perfringens is all about brute force. It unleashes this huge array of what we call histolytic toxins, basically tissue-dissolving toxins and enzymes. The main weapon in its arsenal is alpha toxin, which just rips apart cell membranes. But it's not alone. It has a whole bunch of other toxins that go to work breaking down collagen, proteins, even DNA.
So when this bacteria gets into a deep wound, it finds that perfect oxygen-free environment it loves, and it just takes off. It multiplies incredibly fast, and its toxins cause something called myonecrosis, which is just a fancy term for the rapid death of muscle tissue. This is what leads to gas gangrene. It's a life-threatening infection that spreads like wildfire, producing gas and, well, literally dissolving tissue as it moves.
Okay, last on our list today is an opportunist. This is a pathogen that waits and it strikes when our defenses are down, and you often see this one pop up in healthcare settings.
Our final culprit is Clostridio difficile, or as you probably know it, C. diff. And this one's an insider threat. A lot of the time, it's just hanging out in our gut, totally harmless. But let's say you take broad-spectrum antibiotics, and they wipe out all the good bacteria. Suddenly, our defenses are down. C. diff seizes that opportunity. It overgrows and launches this two-pronged attack with its toxins. You have toxin A, which causes terrible diarrhea, and then toxin B, which is a powerful cytotoxin that straight up kills the cells of your intestinal lining. It leads to a condition that can be really, really tough to treat.
So there you have it. We've met the paralyzer, the spasm inducer, the destroyer, and the disruptor. The big question is, how in the world do we defend ourselves against such a formidable family of bacteria?
Well, the key takeaway here is that there's no one-size-fits-all answer. Our countermeasures have to be tailored to each pathogen's unique method of attack, right? So for botulism, it's all about destroying those spores in our food. For tetanus, vaccination is our silver bullet. It's incredibly effective. For gas gangrene, there's no getting around it. You need aggressive surgical cleaning. And for C. diff, it all comes back to being smart about how you use antibiotics to protect that vital ecosystem in our gut.
When you step back and look at the whole picture, it's pretty amazing. From these deadly, hyper-specific neurotoxins to spores that are practically indestructible and could just wait for decades, the Clostridium genus really shows you the sheer power and diversity of adaptation in nature. It's a powerful reminder of these constant, incredibly complex microbial battles that are happening all around us and even inside of us every single day.